What is up, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast. And in this episode, we feature Skies and have amazing conversations regarding him reforming as a player, his individual growth since his time in Elevate, CLG, Reciprocity, and eventually DZ, the difference in environments between DZ and Rec, which was amazing to learn. And we review every single LAN performance he's had and his thoughts on those LAN games. It was an amazing conversation, and Skies was an amazing guest. Thank you so much for hopping on the pods, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, I really hope you guys can give this a like, subscribe, so the channel can grow and I can get more awesome people on this. Yeah, without further ado, guys, here's the podcast. Okay, sounds good. Okay, cool. I guess we can start. Damn, it feels like I was checking your Wikipedia and there's just been so many teams. It seems like a long list of stuff to hit. Some stuff, though, feels smaller than others, like CLG versus Elevate. I feel like you can talk about Elevate more than CLG or something. I don't know. Okay, cool. Let's talk about, like, console Siege and, like, how you got into it. What games did you play before you started playing Siege?
Okay. Where do I start? So basically, before I got into Siege, I did not play games very much. I played like Madden, GTA, and like 2K, NBA, basketball game. The only reason I got into Siege was because in the middle of my senior year of high school, I got into a car wreck. I got rear-ended, and it basically fucked up my back, and I was home a lot on like basically like painkillers, basically. So I was finishing school a little bit from home, and my friend that I played Madden with at the time played a lot of games, and he actually got me to download the Siege beta and play with him. And that's kind of how I got into it. I actually used to think that Terrorist Hunt was more fun than multiplayer on Siege because that's how much of a casual gamer I used to be. So that's kind of how I got my start in Siege, is basically getting in a car wreck, and now here I am.
Okay, I don't remember a lot about console competitive because it's been so long ago. What were the teams like back then? I remember SOAR being a team. I remember watching you guys when you streamed. How was console competitive? Like, was it strategic heavy? I know it was memed on by the PC community quite a bit.
Oh, man, it's been a while. Console Siege back then, in my opinion, there was basically 4 teams, maybe 5 teams, that, like including Europe, that were, I would say, actually, I don't want to bash the other teams, but I would just say there was 5 teams that were way ahead of the other teams, and that was Elevate, which was my team. I think they were called Threes Up or something. I don't remember what it was called. It was basically a team with like Beastly, Hopes, all those guys back then. I forgot their team name. Vitality, Supremacy, and then the old like Denial slash like Excellence team, which had like Fighter, Phil Cosby, Kush. I don't remember the other guys' names. And I would say the old Denial team was very strategical, along with like Vitality, where I think the rest of the teams were just like in your face, gunning, gunfight type team, which our team was like that too. But going into like the invitational, we kind of switched up a little bit how we played when we picked up Bosco, and we try to use our gun skill to our advantage, but we also try to be a little bit more strategical, and I think that's why we were so good.
I think it's really easy for some people to forget that you're actually an Invitational champion. Tell me about like Invitational 2017 and just like winning that. I know compared to the other invitationals now, it was probably such a small event, right? The price was like 100K, I think. Like, how was it? Like, was that your first LAN experience?
So Invitational was my second LAN ever. It's the first one I ever went to as a player, even like or as a viewer or anything. And comparing it to the first event I went to, which was Year 1, Season 3, Poland, it was completely different because the Invitational at the time was like the biggest event. It still is. It was more exciting, I think, because the stage was better. Way more fans were there. Everyone was more excited to be there because it wasn't in Poland. It was in Canada. So it was a way different environment, and it was kind of like bittersweet, I guess, because at that time we had known that after this event, Xbox was like cut from the Pro League. And so we wanted to really go in there and like end it with us being the best team in the world, which is exactly what we did.
Okay. Heading into like coming out of that, then like were you guys sure you were going to be transferring to PC? Like, was that a sure thing, or did you have to like was that a hard decision at all?
Okay, so it was hard for me. Everybody else on the team at the time was pretty set on switching, except for me. Multiple reasons being, my family was not like wealthy. We're still not. So getting a PC wasn't simple for me. I did not have the same motivation as everyone to try to just switch over because I didn't think I could do it. I had not really played PC games that much. But what had ended up happening is after we won the event, they had like these little like play test things for like the PC version of the game. And me, England, and I think it was me, England, and Lax were all sitting there playing, and England was really, really trying to convince me to play and like switch over. I really, cause I didn't want to do it, but we ended up getting back to that like our houses after the event. I started streaming a little bit more. Someone from my stream, her name is Kristen, like very generously, basically bought me a PC to try to attempt to go pro on PC, and because of her, I was actually able to have that opportunity and was able to actually do it. We ended up qualifying pretty easily.
That's amazing, Kristen Goat. I have a question about transitioning. So, was it challenging picking up a mouse and keyboard for the first time? I remember, like, when you first switched over and you were playing tons of ranked. I think it seemed to me, because I'm pretty sure I played with or against you a couple times. It seemed to me like it was almost effortless for you. What were your thoughts on that?
So in the very beginning when we switched, we would scrim like pro teams pretty often. We would So the two teams that we could never really do well against in practice was Ominous at the time and Old F3. We would never take a map off them in scrims. They would always smoke us. It was never close, but we would be able to take maps off of like Continuum at the time, who was just like the recent world champions from Invite. Um, I don't remember the other team. I think it was like Onslaught. Every other team except for F3 and Ominous, we could just not compete with. Or oh my god, other way around. We could compete with. And there was a point where we were scrimming Ominous on Canal at the time the map was in the map pool. And Jarvis killed me from an angle I have never seen before. And right there in that moment, I was like, guys, I cannot do this. Like, PC is just something different. And I left the scrim and I told him straight up, I was like, you know what? You guys got to find somebody else. I don't think I can do this. And they end up picking up Vandal, I think, for a little bit. And then after like a week of me like sitting there just kind of debating, is like, do I really want to commit to doing this? Blah 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 blah. I told him, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stop being a bitch. Let's do this. Let's qualify. And then they ended up dropping Vandal and bringing me back, and we ended up qualifying. So it kind of wasn't easy for me. I think it was easier for everybody else at the time. I think it definitely took me the longest to adjust.
What would you have done if you didn't actually compete in Siege?
So my original plan after school was to go to the military because it's something I always wanted to do as I was a kid. It didn't get too serious to the point where I started like looking into it because of this whole Siege stuff. So if I didn't do that, like if Siege never came into my life, I would probably be in the military right now. Like I said, it's just something I really wanted to do since I was a kid. But looking at it now and with how everything how everything is right now, I'm kind of glad I'm not. But yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Elevate's run in PC then, because post Invitational 2017, you guys played Pro League Year Two Season One and Year Two Season Two and Three, I believe. Um, and I know that's a long time ago, but like, how was it in those seasons? Like, were you guys faring well versus most of the other teams, like Continuum? I know Continuum wasn't there at some point, well they were, or because I know you guys also made your two season two finals and lost to Penta. So, like, how
Mhm.
was it being in the PC scene and trying to play at that high level?
So, from my knowledge, if I'm remembering correctly, year two, season one was our first season on PC Pro League. we ended up sending Continuum to two relegations that season, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
Which was pretty mind blowing to I think us and everybody because this is our first season on PC. Like there's no reason we should be even finishing top 4. I think we got third or second that season. I honestly don't remember, it was so long ago. But like you said, we qualified for the Pro League finals, played against Penta. To be honest, I don't think any of us expected to get to that point on our first season, but I think we knew that we were all capable because of just based off how we were doing in scrims. Like I said, we could not beat Ominous or F3. But again, I'm pretty sure that season we ended up playing. I think we played Ominous that season, and we ended up beating them. And that was the only time we had ever actually played them in a match. The one time we beat them, but we could not beat them in scrims ever.
That's interesting. Yeah, how was the Pro League final then? Like I know like Penta beat you guys. I think it was like it was kind of a quick game, but were they like completely out of you guys' league at the time? Like could you guys feel the difference on that stage?
Okay, so going actually into that game, we had to make a wait, was it? Yeah, we had to make a roster change before that event because we actually ended up replacing Geo with Bosco, who had just switched to PC. Basically, Bosco's only on PC for like a month, maybe a month and a half. I don't really want to get into details of that, but we ended up making a change, putting Bosco in for Geo, and it was a little different just because I think Geo was probably one of the better players at the time we had on the team. Like I said, I think I was still struggling a little bit. I think, other people were still adjusting. So it hurt us a bit, but at the same time, bringing Bosco back, I think also made us better in certain ways too. He played extremely well, especially for the time that he was on PC Siege. So I think Penta was ahead of us at the time. That was like when their reign just began again. And I think we played pretty well for the time that we had on PC, but there was obviously they were just better.
Okay. And at some point there, I think it was like February 2018. You guys get picked up by CLG. So this was mind blowing from my perspective because I felt like this came out of nowhere, and like CLG, I wouldn't like. I think really early at that time, people would call them one of the big orgs coming into Siege. How did that happen? Getting picked up. And also, I have a question about. I remember you guys went boot camping right before the Pro League season. Like, I hadn't heard of any other team doing that at the time. And I know CLG didn't really achieve a lot of success, but like, if you could speak on how like getting picked up by CLG, the organization, and like how they tried to support you guys heading into like your next season.
Okay. Oof, man, this was so long ago. So following year 2, season 2, which is the season we end up getting second place, losing to Penta again, in the grand finals this time though. We were somewhat approached by CLG. I don't remember exactly how it went down, but they were interested in us. We were interested in them based off just for our own personal gain and the game's personal gain, because we wanted to see it expand. And I think Continuum had just gotten picked up by EG. So we kind of had like the next up and coming big Oregon Siege, and we were, super stoked for that. They ended up picking us up, like you said. They boot camped us in California before the Pro League season. And to be honest, the boot camp was going pretty good, but we had kind of an issue, I think. How do I word this? Like I said, we didn't have a good season. We kind of ran our course, kind of like how Canadian said that he thinks EG just kind of ran its course. They hit their peak, blah blah blah. And I kind of felt like that's how we were year 2, season 2 of Siege. We ended up replacing Chapstick, going into with CLG for Geo again. We ended up bringing Geo back, and in the beginning it was really good, but like after a couple months, 2 months, it kind of just like started running its course. We let personal issues affect us in game with each other. We weren't being straight up with each other. We were just not being how teammates should be, and that was kind of just the downfall of it is we were being arrogant. Basically, I'll just say arrogant for no reason. I personally still think if we never let personal issues affect us, we would have been one of the best teams to ever play Siege.
I think that's fair. You guys also played in the six invite 2018, and I think you guys were like one of the first teams to go out.
Yeah, we got grouped, and we definitely shouldn't have. We were up both games, multiple rounds that we lost, and we just let it slip away. And then, right after that, it's just exactly like I said. We didn't address our issues. We just kind of always tried to avoid it. Like I said, it was just varying personalities, varying opinions, varying views on how people saw things, and that was the ultimate downfall of the team.
Was there an attempt to get people's minds together for the relegation game versus Beast Coast, or was it just let's get this over with mentality team wise?
I think that it definitely varies per person. I don't want to speak for other people, but I will say that I think there was attempts to bring us all together to try to get us back to be the team that we were, the mentality that we used to have as a team. And obviously that didn't work out. I still don't think we should have lost that match. I think we were the better team, but it was another game that we just gave away because of how we were together. We weren't a group. We were not a unit. I'll say we were separated in groups.
Okay, so you guys get relegated, and then like CLG stops becoming a thing. That roster sort of like dissipates, and then we hear that you're joining up with Adam to join like Obey. Like, how does that actually happen? Because I don't think anyone like in the scene, at least the community, wasn't aware that that was even possible. Rumors at the time were going that you were one of the major issues why CLG was disbanding. So people were actually kind of surprised that you joined Obey, and you might even gone a bit of flack for that, like Why Skies. So let's talk about how you got to join like that roster.
So at the time, if I remember correctly, I think I had 2 or 3 offers for pro league teams, and the reason I picked Obey was because Bosco, to this day, was probably like top 2, one of my favorite teammates of all time, and reason being that he. So I have a different perspective on certain things. Like I said, it varies per person. I've always been the type that like just wants to be blunt with people. I don't want to sugarcoat stuff, and I want us to like help each other get better. And Bosco was very good at that too. Bosco is way nicer at wording things when it came to that than I am. But the thing is, at the end of the day, we both would understand that we're just trying to help each other get better. And that was kind of what I had missed. And I wanted to play with that again. And that's kind of why I chose Obey. And he approached me. He knew that I could IGL. He knew I could bring some leadership stuff. But at the time, I had to like fix some of my own issues. So it was kind of like it's something that could have been super good, but with the lack of time and the lack of like a good format for pro league at the time, there was like auto relegations, which I'm sure we're going to get into. Kind of just the team wasn't able to become what I actually thought it could have.
I think the first LAN event we saw Obey head into was DreamHack Austin, and the hype for that event, in my perspective, was really real because like you guys were fresh into Obey. We're about to see them in a LAN environment like straight off the get go. The Obey org was tweeting how you guys were getting like physical training of some sort. Like there were videos of you guys working out, heading into the
We had personal
tournament,
trainers, yeah.
train eating well and all that. And how was DreamHack Austin?
DreamHack Austin was a fun event, but at the same time, like I said, we were a team early on. We had a lot of new stuff, we're all new to each other. Basically, bringing on 2 people to a roster is always much different than just bringing on one person. And me and Adam had came from 2 very different teams with very different personality people, so it took a bit to click. Like I said, I think our first game Dude, I don't even remember some of those matches. I just remember we played. I think it was Chaos at the time.
Yeah, you
We
guys
beat
2-1
them,
Chaos and
and
lost to
then
Rogue.
and then we played Rogue. We could never beat Rogue for some reason. And we played Rogue. I'm pretty sure they smoked us with a coach. I don't know if it was that event. I'm pretty sure they beat us with a coach. They had Ranger playing, I think. And then we played up Chaos again, and we ended up losing. So basically, we had a pretty bad event, and I think losing to a team with a coach, not their actual fifth player, kind of speaks volume on that. We're a fresh team, so not really an excuse for that. We didn't click yet.
I think if not for auto relegations, Obey could have been something great because I was not. I was expecting a good showing in the six major, and I feel like you guys actually performed really well. You guys eventually lost to Rogue, I think. That was one that knocked you guys out.
At Paris?
Yeah, Paris.
Yeah. We ended up in a rogue. Yep.
How was the six major? How was practice heading into the six major? Yeah. What were your thoughts
So
on it?
Paris is a good. Okay, so there's not a lot of matches I don't think that were streamed for the Paris quals, but I think that the Paris qualifiers and the Paris major itself was a a sign of how we would have played in a best of three format. I think best of one is just we were not good at. I think there was more pressure. Um, we weren't as confident because it was a best of one, like as a team. But when it came to best of threes, it kind of showed that we like with this team could actually be something very, very good. And I still think that to this day. Like I just think we were a best of three team, not a best of one team. Um, Practice going into the Paris major was pretty good, if I recall correctly. We would lose a couple maps every now and then, but I'm pretty positive that was like probably the best siege we ever played as a team was those scrims before the matches during Paris qualifiers and then the actual matches at Paris was the best we had ever played as a team on Obey.
Um, I remember you guys like that. The losses to Rogue were really rough. Like those were 7-6, 7-6 losses on both maps. So that was even like really close as well. The international competition there, like you guys got to play versus Liquid and you beat them. And just making it to the playoffs. Did you guys expect to make playoffs there? Or at
Yeah,
least
we
what were your
did.
team expectations for that event? Oh,
We That's the thing. We had very high expectations. We went into it as the underdog. I think we were ranked as like the 14th out of the 16 teams there, and we just want to prove everyone wrong. And I personally think we did. Losing to Rogue by one round was heartbreaking. Like that was probably one of the hardest losses I've ever taken, like personally in my career, and I've had a lot of those. Um, I I felt more so like hurt for the team than I did like myself, like for the other people on my team, because I wanted it for them more than I wanted it for myself. Because I know for a fact that like they worked so hard to get there and to lose the way that we did, it was literally just heartbreaking. Like having to like try to lead and keep everyone up after the loss was so hard because of how much like I genuinely hurt for them. It was it was a hard loss for all of us.
yeah, for sure. And just following into that, the Pro League Season 8, like you guys' standings were not great. Um, you say the problem was you guys were not a BO1 team, but when you're in that time, like, well, how do you try to fix that? How do you guys try to make yourself a BO1 team? Because you sort of have to if you don't want to get all relegated. Were there any solutions you guys tried to come up with to help? Like I know it could just seem like a general mental thing, but what were your thoughts on like we still have to win these games. We can't just keep saying that.
Yeah, 100%. So we after the Paris Major, we kind of had some like upcoming issues after the Paris Major. I personally did not want to play. I was so mentally like just out of it. I felt like it wasn't good for the team. Like if I played because of where I was. Like I said, I just wanted to kind of step back and help them from like a more so like a coach perspective. Um, along with Ken's at the time, but they didn't want me to do that, so I kind of sucked it up and just tried to play through it. I know that after Paris, like some people's like confidence wasn't the same and like in themselves because maybe they didn't perform in a match or something. So it's like we had all these issues after Paris, and Bosco at the time and I at the time did not really want to IGL because I don't know. Like I said, I think we were after Paris, we were just all mentally just drained, and leading that going into the next split of the season, just it didn't help where we already were in the standings, which I think was like 6th or 7th place. So it was kind of just downhill from there. And I think that was just us as a team just not in it. Like there's really no excuse. Like you could say we're just not a best of one team, but just like we were not in a good place as a team. Like results were bad in scrims, all this stuff. It's just like we tried everything we could, but we just couldn't find, like our like what's the word for it? We just couldn't find our place at the time as a team.
Okay, so you said and this is gonna be a transition to reciprocity, and we're getting through this fast. That's like we're freaking nuts. You said heading into Obey that you were joining in with Adam, joining from different teams, and from what just happened in CLG, you were trying to fix some individual things. Can you speak more on that? Like, what exactly did you feel you need to improve in this next team, and did you, looking back on that, improve in these areas?
Are you talking about when I was joining Rec?
No, well, joining Obey, right? Or even joining Rec, like learning from the lessons of being a relegated slash auto relegated. Um, were there any things you wanted to take into joining Rec?
Yeah. So, being the one of the few back-to-back relegated star players here. Kidding. Like I said, I learned a lot from Elevate, Obey. So going into Rec, like I said, after Elbay got relegated, I took about a 2-month break from Siege, not like of competitive. It was complete like a full on reset. Like I needed to like revisit what I wanted to do. If I wanted to keep going, playing pro league, all this stuff, because I just got relegated back to back. So it's kind of like a science. Like, maybe I honestly am the issue. Maybe it is me. And I really, really try to focus on that. I talked to friends at the time. Like I said, Bosco's one of them. Bosco's, like I said, I consider one of my closest friends. And I straight up told him, I was like, dude, maybe it is me, blah, 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 blah. Maybe I shouldn't be playing. And Bosco straight up just told me, he's like, you're a fucking idiot. You're one of the best players in the game. You better start playing again. And, I took his advice, took some other people's advice, lax things. And they ended up offering me to join them. I think it was after their USN performance, I think, if I recall. They wanted to replace Goddess with me. And it was kind of like an out of nowhere thing because me at the time, I did not have the best relationship with Fox. We were not on good terms because of things that honestly probably was not my business at the time. So we're not going to get into that, but we were not in the best terms. So I knew from my like little 2-month break, I needed to redesign myself and fix the way that I say things so that it doesn't come off as douchey as it it just shouldn't come off as douchey as the way I would say it, and try to realign like my attitude with certain things. And that's kind of the biggest thing I brought in from my experience on Elevate and Obey is like I said, maybe I was the issue, although I don't think I was the only issue. But going to Rec / like C9, that's kind of the biggest thing I took into. It was to try to like lead by example, but still try to keep my beliefs on how certain things should be, but just doing it in a more respectable way.
How do you fix that? Give me a practical example on how you actually fix the way you give people feedback.
So I was always super blunt about it. If I think someone's slacking or being lazy, I wouldn't hesitate on it. I would just straight up say, I'd be like, I think you're being lazy and I think you need to step it up. Rather than the way I would do it now is like, I'll just try to help you. If I think you're not performing or something, or I think there's something you get better at, just be like, hey, do you want to spend a couple minutes after practice to talk about something, or like go over a VOD, or or just try to get people more involved and more into it with each other than just, being straight up honest about it. And some people like respond to that better with just being straight up blunt, and that's how I respond better. So I know, like, even now in like DZ, um, Brandon, who's our coach BC, I straight up tell him, like, when it comes to like criticism stuff, like, I just want you to be straight up with me. Like, if I'm playing like shit, or if I'm, droning, or if I'm not bringing the energy or something, I just want you to straight up tell me. And like I said, some people like that better, some people don't. So you have to figure out that person and try to respectfully approach that person in a way that they would understand that you're just trying to help them, not trying to like bring them down or, disrespect them. So that's
Okay.
kind of like what I learned.
What were your first impressions of Reciprocity heading into the team, like scrims and slash Cloud9 at the time, right? But what were your first impressions getting to team with Lax again after last time was Elevate, right?
Yes. So my first impression was it was a little different because when I joined, it seemed like a very friendship oriented team compared to like a business oriented team. And when I say that, it was like there wouldn't be issues there would not be like issues with each other or as a team that would be, pointed out or um fixed. It would just be kind of something we just brush off to the side. And because I was new on the team, I wouldn't say anything about it. I would just kind of, I was trying to get to know everybody, learn my place, learn my role in the team. And it got to a point where I think that our performance started to slip a little bit. And I think it was because we kept doing this like friendship over business type thing where we don't want to address these issues. We just want to like, be friends, play the game. And once it got to that point, I kind of tried to step up more in that leadership role and address it with people. It's like, look, guys, like, we can be friends, all this stuff, but it's like at the end of the day, do we want to be a friendship team that gets fifth or sixth place, or do we want to be friendship and a business team to where we can actually fucking win? And once we got to that point, I think it definitely affected people differently. Some people were like, "Wow, he's right," and there was people that were like, "Nah, they don't want to do this yet. Like they're not ready for that. They don't want to hear it." But at some point, other people started getting more on the ball with that, like with agreeing. It's like, you know what, look, we can be friends, but we can also win too. So let's all step up. And like I said, it slowly other people started stepping up more than others when it came to that.
Um, Obviously with Rec closing because of COVID, that was really unfortunate. But I've heard literally only good things about Rec from other players. What were your thoughts on Rec and how they like supported you guys as players?
Okay. So Rec inside outside the game was very supportive. Chad he was the owner of Reciprocity, was probably one of the best owners I've ever worked with. He would actually take his time out of the day, not just have like someone like below him in a role wise meet with us. He would meet with us often when we had like issues to discuss, or if we just want to talk to him about something. He was always there. Um, they inside the game, they always made sure that we were set up like with monitors, desks, computers, chairs, the house being set up before we even moved in. Like they were amazing. All that, nothing bad to say about Rec. And like I said, outside the game, completely respectable. I would work with Chad again in a heartbeat. Um, yeah, they were great. One of the best orgs to ever, I would say, bless Siege, because not every T1 org is for the players. I'll just say that. And Reciprocity was definitely for the players.
That's amazing. I think the expectation the community had when they heard you were going to be teaming with Lax again would be like the duo coming back from like Elevate, like the roaming duo. I think I remember you guys like roaming in like old cafe versus Continuum and holding it down and reading. Um, Obviously that didn't really work out that way, and I feel like Laxing plays like a really different role in Reciprocity compared to back then. How would you say his role worked? Because I wouldn't call it baity, but it always seemed that he would be um I don't know what you would call that role. Like, I guess it could technically be flex, but he was always like doing his own thing. Like, how does it work, and how do you use Laxing's strengths? Like, what are his strengths as well?
So we, like I said, we kind of had like two different play styles on rec. In the beginning, like I said, it was kind of like we didn't really have an IGL. We kind of just played off each other and played roles. We had strats, we ran it, and we would make plays. Lax, the way I call Lax's role is Lax can bait sometimes. I'm gonna say it. Lax can bait sometimes, but he knows I don't mean that out of disrespect. Um, but he is just a fragger. That's literally what Lax said. He just kills people. I don't know how he does it. Sometimes I'll watch a VOD or something, and I don't know what the fuck he's doing, but it's working. He's getting kills, so you can't knock it. Lax normally always performs. Um, he's just very good at just doing what he does. And the thing is, I don't even know what he does, but it works. But like I said, if I was beginning how our play style was, and then I don't know if you want to fast forward to this already, but going like into the season of Japan, in the middle of the season, we made a big change in roles on how we want to run the team. And that was because we got smoked by SSG, like absolutely fucking destroyed. I think it was like a 7-2, 7-1 or something. They just destroyed us. And I said at the time we didn't really have an IGL. And I went to the team, I approached the team. I was like, look, our performance is falling off. We have to actually start playing as a team, not just making plays because it's not going to work every game. Like, I'm asking you guys to trust me. Like, let me play the hard reach role. Let me IGL us. Just trust me. Like, let me do this. And everyone was on board like pretty quick because Hopes had support. I had hope the support from Hopes, who's our coach. Fox was supporting it. Lax was a little eerie on it because he liked the way the playstyle was, but he started supporting. So everyone became on board slowly, and our performance from there spiked. Like we like it positively. We were a completely different team in my opinion, and I think in a positive way. And the change that we kind of made is I wanted to put Fox more on like the primary entry and kind of put him and Lax somewhat on a leash. I'm just gonna be honest, kind of put them on a leash to kind of make sure they're always like on point of like what they need to do and micromanaging them. And I think that phase specifically really improved Fox as a player. Like even people were talking about on Twitter like 2 days ago or something after their match against Disrupt, and everyone's saying like Fox is like one of the most improved players over the last year. And I really think that phase of like our team like brought that out of him because he went from being like kind of just comfortable with what he's doing to like wanting to learn, wanting to improve, you know, uh, listening, taking criticism way better. Like he just I really think he was a big reason why we spiked, and I think the role changes were a big part of that too.
That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I guess you guys did do a lot of stuff on Rick, so we should probably breeze through that. 6 Invite 2019. I saw that live. The group stages were sort of a breeze for you guys. I know you guys went like 2-1, and you guys only lost to. What did you guys lose to? I think
Pretty
it
sure we
was
lost to Fnatic.
Fnatic. Talk about the Fnatic loss because I felt like you guys, you beat Nip, and then you beat FaZe. Do you remember
So,
that game? Like, was it just because it was Fnatic being like was it like a surprise?
uh, man, I'm trying to remember. I think at the time, Fnatic was the only team in our group that we actually were not worried about. We thought we were just going to smoke them, and I think that's why we lost. So I'm pretty sure we went into that game just a little cocky, a little overconfident, and Fnatic shut us up. They performed better than we expected, and I think that was like our wake up call for that event. Was like, look, we lose one more game, we're out. Like, so we decided to go from that game to just not underestimating anybody.
For sure. Yeah, that Fnatic game started off really weird because I think you guys played Consulate and you guys were winning 6-2, and then they come back all the way to 6-6, and then you guys eventually win Consulate like OT match point. It was a 3-hour game to spectate, which was pretty crazy. Um, And then you guys went into the playoffs after getting through the group stages and you beat EG. That game felt like a barn burner to watch. And I felt like, and I spoke to Troy on the podcast about this, anytime EG is playing against a team and it's getting that close, like all these rounds felt like they're just like anyone can win the round at the end. It almost feels like EG tends to lose those types of games because I just felt there's like ton more fragging potential on the reciprocity at the time. How was the game versus EG in your perspective?
Um, hmm. So I kind of want to just bring the NIP game up a little bit
Yeah, for sure.
before I go into the EG game. So our NIP game, I think, was kind of our, I don't want to say like our warm up, but like playing against NIP basically got us in the right mindset, in my opinion. Because, like you said, the first game, like Fnatic, was a barn burner. The very first map against NIP was a barn burner too.
Eight
We went,
six.
yeah, we went 8-6 or 8-7 on Consulate too, where them end up winning. And I'm pretty sure we had a map lead or map control, or I don't remember what it was, or a round count. Sorry. And we had an issue that first map against NIP where we uh let's put it like this. People weren't listening to call outs. People were not like, I was telling people to do stuff. People weren't responding. They were kind of just doing their own thing. And I'll just say it. Like, actually, no, I won't say it. We like, people just weren't listening. They're doing their own thing. And then we ended up losing 8-6. So, we walk away after the first map. We have like our little team player meeting. And, I just straight up say, I was like, guys, you got to wake the fuck up. Do you guys want to go home? And, everyone responds, no, we don't. And I was like, okay, then. So, like, going into these next two maps, we're going to wake the fuck up. We're going to play as a team. Everyone needs to listen to each other. And that's exactly what we did. We won, I think, 13 rounds in a row before NIP won a single round. And it was not close. We absolutely just destroyed them. Everyone woke up, and that was the complete mindset going into the next couple games.
Okay.
Or I think the next game was EG, actually.
Um, I think you guys played Rec as FaZe as a decider, and then you
Maybe
guys
that's what it
played
was.
AG in playoffs. You also beat FaZe as well for sure.
Hmm.
I actually have a question about that because it seems to be a thing that happens in LAN environments where it takes teams a map to switch on. How does that happen? Like you're already in a group stage, like you're already in the group stage of the invitational. How do people? I don't need to know no names. I don't really care that much. I'm talking more about the mental thing or how you like pick yourself up from those losses, like an 8-6 loss, or you feel like maybe the team is just not itself. How do you get people on the same page? Because you can tell, I'm pretty sure, like you can feel like the game is getting away from you, and if you don't do anything now, you're probably that's it.
Um, I definitely think that varies per person. Um, and I'll say for us at the time, it was kind of just as a people not realizing where we're actually at, what we need to do, and how we're playing. Because like I said, going into that event, our practice was probably like the best it's ever been. But some people just wake up differently and have to realize stuff. Like LAN is a completely different environment. It's a completely different game compared to online, and there's more at stake at LAN events than there is online. So, uh, how do I word this? I said people are just a little bit different. People wake up differently. People see things differently. So sometimes you have to just, it takes a map. Sometimes you can have a bad game the first map, but the next two maps, that player that had the bad game could just go absolutely insane because they just need to realize what's actually going on.
That's fair.
Sometimes people forget to focus on the moment rather than the future, I guess is a way to put it.
How would you describe yourself in LAN environments?
Me, I'm more in the moment because I'm way more confident on land than I am online because of issues within the game and uh, just being in a basically, like I said, online compared to LAN is a different game. And LAN works, online is 50-50. That's the best way to put it.
That's fair. Okay, cool. Let's get into that EG game then. Heartbreaking loss for me as an EG fan. How did that like? What were your thoughts on that game?
Um, we were honestly pretty excited to play them because I know that they hated our play style, and that was well known. That they did not like the super sporadic, random plays. So we were pretty excited to play those guys. We knew that they were probably the one of the best teams there, along with the G2 and FaZe. So we were excited. We thought we had the upper edge just based off our play style, and I think we took advantage of that, uh, especially on Coastline.
Yeah, watching that was ridiculous because I know they won the first map and I was super excited. Like, yes, it's 2-0 these kids. And then and then I think Villa I might have gone to like 5-5 and then you guys won 7-5 and it was just like, oh my god, this is slipping away. And as soon as Coastline just started getting super close and I was, oh, this is so bad. Like I can't believe we're gonna lose this. EG losing that sucked. And like you guys went on to play G2 after that and got 7-2 on both maps. Okay, so the last time you played against Penta, man, you got what 5-2, I believe, on both maps on Elevate, and now you got getting 7-2. How different was this, man? Like you had played like a variety of regions already. Were they actually like a different level? How was it playing against them on the stage, or was it just you guys making that many mistakes? Did they win because they won, or is it because you guys just outplayed yourselves?
So I think it's a mix of both, specifically for the first map. I think we actually should have won Clubhouse against them. We threw man advantage, I think, a couple rounds. But after that first map, we kind of shut down mentally as a team. We did exactly what we talked about we weren't going to do when it came to that, and they took advantage of that for sure. But I do think G2 at that time was so far ahead of anybody else that I don't think I don't want to discredit any other team. But I just think G2 is so far ahead of everybody else that if they would have lost that event, it would have just been because of themselves. I think Rec or EG at the time could have won it, but G2 was just, like I said, they were just so ahead that you had to do something crazy to beat those guys.
When you guys lost the first map, and this is going to be a really like intimate question, when you guys lost the first map and you realized that they beat you guys that far, like how were you planning to head into the second one, which was Coast, which you had already beat AG on, right? So I'm guessing your confidence might have been a bit high heading into that. Um, how are you guys gonna try to bring that back? Like as far as head as they might have felt, at least for you as an IGL, like it's your job to figure out a solution right there. With any attempted solutions you had towards their playstyle?
Well, so at that time, I actually was not the IGL, but I would make some calls every now and then.
Okay.
Like I said, we at that time we kind of were just focused on playing our like the rec siege that I joined into. We were kind of just focused on
Okay, that was
playing.
really early, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so like I said, after the first map, we kind of just like mentally shut down a bit because we felt like we should have won that map. We threw man advantage. Going in the second map, we were confident, but we weren't the same as we were in the first map because we knew historically that that was one of their best maps, but it was also one of ours. So we kind of just it was like whoever just shows up is going to win, and they every decision we made, they just were ready for it. Every single play we were trying to make, they were just ready for it, and that's what I'm saying. With G2 at that time was just like on another level.
Have you did you ever get back to review those VODs and check out that loss and like see any of the mistakes you guys made and how you could have learned from that?
There
Um,
was we definitely sat down at one point after that event and like watched it, but I don't remember what we discussed, but I know that the biggest thing was our attitudes after the first map. All of us was just shit, and we knew that that was something we just had to fix for future events.
okay, cool. All right, let's get into let's get into the next uh event. It's probably Pro League Season 9 since it was after Invitational. And you guys placed third there, so that was your first Pro League with Rec. Well, under Rec's banners, I guess, because you already played under Cloud9. What were your thoughts on that season?
I
Wasn't
think
too
it was.
far away.
I thought it was a pretty good season. Like I said, they went from sixth place the previous season to third place. So I think it was a nice feeling for me personally because I had just got relegated back to back. So um, it was nice for me personally to like, wow, third place, dude, feels good. And we only finished like I think it was like 3 rounds or something outside of second. Like EG barely took it from us.
Yeah, that was really
I,
close.
like so it wasn't. It was huge progress for them and for me for based off like the previous season. So we were happy with it, but we know for a fact that we could have taken second that season.
Okay. I'm just gonna take a bit to talk about Hopes because I think not a lot of people know him. I actually wasn't even aware that he played console.
Hmm.
Really early. Let's talk about the work he did coaching in rec, and when you became an IGL, in what ways did he support you?
Okay. So Hopes basically was a he didn't really make strats. Hopes was very good at analytics, handling attitudes, and helping people improve individually as a player. Is the way I would put it. I think okay, he's one of the few people that doesn't like maybe not now, but like back then would not be on Twitter, constantly talking like coach quote shit, like great coaches do this, blah 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 blah. Hopes was more of like the quiet guy publicly, but when it came to the actual team, he knew what he was talking about. Everyone on our team had a very high respect of Hopes, and I still do to this day. He's one of my favorite people to ever work with. When it came to him helping me improve as an IGL, he basically would help me. Like I don't know how to word it specifically, but he was very good at helping me word shit even better. Even though I was already working on that, he would always have my back when it came to match. He's like, you just trust, listen to my calls, all that type of stuff. He was very supportive. Um, he basically I think a reason I am the player that I am today over the last like year is because of Hopes personally. He boosted myself. I already was pretty confident myself, but he had boosted my own like self confidence as a player more than anybody else I've ever worked with.
That's
So I
interesting.
think, yeah.
Okay, and then you guys still in 2019 get to play in two Dream Hacks. When I'd love to hear your thoughts on Valencia slash Montreal. Valencia, a highlight for me. I don't think we got to see this game. We might have. It was the TSM game versus Rec, where TSM won. I know you guys beat Trust, and I watched those games. They were on Coastline, and they were pretty easy-ish games, I guess. What were your thoughts on the DreamHacks? If there's anyone that's more memorable for you, either Montreal or Valencia?
I'd say definitely Valencia. I honestly don't remember a lot about Montreal, but Valencia was what like was that's one of those events that just like you look back on and you're just like fuck because Rogue ended up winning that event, and I don't think our game against Rogue was streamed, but that game was a barn burner. That game was fucking nuts. The winner of that game was winning the event 100%, which is what ended up happening. I'm pretty sure they played the old, like the current Rogue roster, but the old team, I think, in the finals, and they just destroyed them. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah, they did.
our game against them was literally insane. It was every round it could have gone either way, basically. And I remember the people there that were watching it like behind us were like freaking out, like with because that's how good the game was. That should have been our event as a team. Like that should have been our event to win as a team, in my opinion. The very last map easily is just popping off every round. Like we would get man advantage and then boom, easily 3K in 0.2 seconds or something. Or the next round starts, we have this plan of what we're gonna do this round, and boom, spawn killed our Habana. Like it was a barn burner, man. I love that game. Even though we lost, it was one of the most fun games to play.
That's awesome. Yeah, we didn't get to see that game at all. We just saw the Rogue beat Reciprocity, and I think the only game we really got to see was the first Trust game, and then the TSM game after that because people wanted to see Bulo's like debut in the LAN environment.
Mhm.
Um, Okay, I guess we could go to season 10. And that of season 10 of Pro League. You guys placed second, so that was progress from third from season 9. What were your goals heading into season 10?
First place. No excuses. That's what our goal was.
And but I think you guys did you guys start off when I can't remember. Okay. All right. So you guys went like you had a couple losses. I know you guys lost to Luminosity and eventually to DZ. What were your thoughts on getting through the season? Were there any challenges through that season? Do you even remember that DZ loss at all?
Um, Honestly, no, I don't. Um, I remember that the loss against LG was a little surprising to us just because they were having like just a crazy start to the split. I think they finished like second or third in the beginning of the first split or something. They like 7-1 DZ too, which was like
Yeah, on border. That was a
something.
freaking crazy game.
Yeah, it was very surprising. And we like I said, we just started up with like our expectation was first place, and we all of a sudden LG is just smoking everybody. So we were a little shocked by that.
Heading into the finals, how did that go? Because I know you guys eventually lost to Navi and placed around third or fourth. What were your thoughts on Tokonami? That's obviously
Well,
your
first,
last with the team as well.
yeah, that event was probably like the best event like I think Caesars had outside of the invitationals. That event was fucking awesome.
Oh,
Fans were cool. It was one of my favorite events. I hope they definitely do one again. Um, so our first match was against I think it's been a minute.
yeah, yeah. You guys played them first.
Nip, yes. But we played them with a sub, and I actually think our performance against them was a little shaky, especially for them having a sub. So I was a little worried after the fact, but we ended up like, watching back the VOD, and we just, it was like kind of like silly mistakes on our own end, throwing man advantages as like we tend to do for some reason. And just losing fights we shouldn't, peaking things we shouldn't. So going into the Navi game, we were actually pretty confident. The only team we were worried about at that event was DZ. Like we were confident against Navi, we're confident against Nip, confident against Arrowwolf, all those guys. DZ was the one team that we were a little worried about because they had always had our number. So going in the game against Navi, like I said, we were super confident, and it was a barn burner. That first map was just a frag
Yeah,
fest.
Console was a freaking shit show. It was an 8-7 win for you guys. That thing was way too close for comfort.
Yeah, it was just I don't think me and Citizen were just kind of taking turns each round, just basically just going crazy. And going into Villa, which was the second map, which had happened to be our best map, we just got destroyed. I'm pretty sure we got 7-1 or
Yeah, you
something
guys
on
got
Villa.
7-1 on Villa.
And we were a little thrown off by that because that was our best map. We were like, what just happened? Like those guys just every which way we went, they countered us the whole time. So that threw us off. We were not ready for that. And then the third map I think was Clubhouse, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
yeah, it was Clubhouse. I remember one of them ratting like in Logi, and then you guys having a hard time trying to kill him when they were holding a downstairs basement. What were your lessons from that Navi game?
Um um Biggest lesson for me personally was I felt like I could have definitely called better and made sure we were more prepared going into that map. Because afterwards, after the first map, we kind of took kind of more of like a breather, more so than like a prep going into the second map, because we were all like it was a crazy long map, 8-6 or 8-7, whatever it was. We just needed a breather. So I felt like at the time it was just like, just let Hope say what Hope wants to say, and then I'll kind of just sit this one out basically, and just listen to what Hope said. I felt like I could have probably said more as like the leader of the team to get us more prepared into like the next map mindset. But that's kind of like my lesson. I could have, rather than hold back, just kind of just do it basically.
Okay. And then we hear that you're being traded to DZ. Really shocking. Coming from, I feel like those teams are very different play styles and just like very different environments in general. How did that trade happen?
So that trade happened is a little complicated. So I wanted to basically have a more of a structured SSG DZ play style on rec, and the team did not want to. Not really the team. It's just like it wasn't something that we wanted. Not like the majority had wanted, and it's just something like I felt like I've been looking for a while. It's something I really wanted, and I told Reciprocity at the time. I was like, if I have any offers after this event from SSG, TSM, or DZ, those are the three teams I would have been interested in joining at the time. Then like I would like to entertain or hear that offer, because at the time, like at that point of the game now, like it wasn't between the players talking, it was pure organization stuff. So I was just like, I had a pretty good event. If any of those teams are interested, I would like to hear it. And then after like, a week or so, a week and a half or so after that event, Reciprocity, I get a call from them. We were actually staying in Tokyo for a little like extra time after that event. So I think I was literally in the airport and I got a call from one of the Reciprocity guys, managers, and he was telling me about, there's some teams that are interested. I never got the list of all the teams interested, but he said there's some teams interested. What are your thoughts on this? Blah blah blah. And I was like, well, I don't really know the team because you're not telling me, but I would definitely like to talk about it more and see what that could be. And they didn't want to. Obviously, they didn't want to let me go. Like they were very stuck on trying to keep me, and I don't blame them. Obviously, we just had a pretty fucking decent event. Um, but it's very complicated to talk about because it's weird how org stuff works.
Is it sketchy?
Uh, yeah, somewhat, but it's complicated to the point. It's like I don't know how much I can say,
That's fair.
but I will say, like I said, there was conversation that there were some teams that were interested, and after X amount of time, they told me it was DZ, and they asked me if I was interested in that, and I told them yes, I am, and they connected me to DZ. They allowed me to talk to them and see what they wanted to do. And the conversation I had was exactly what I had wanted in a team. And it has nothing, no disrespect to any of the guys from Reciprocity. It was just like I wanted something different than they did at the time in terms of like a play style and like a more business oriented team where like it was already set in stone, if that makes sense. It's not a huge adjustment that we would have to make. I was just ready to go. Like I want to win now.
Okay. Let's talk about that then. DC's a completely different environment. Even the team house looks completely different than the reciprocity. How much of a change is that? Like how much of a change, and I would appreciate if you give examples as well, is DZ's system versus reg system?
Uh so the biggest difference between DZ and Reciprocity is Reciprocity was very player led. Um where DZ is the organization is constantly involved with the players through a daily like basis. Like Zach is always here, like at the house with us, involved with kind of what's going on. Brandon is the coach and the general manager of DZ, so he's very very involved in like what goes on. It's just like I said, it was a system already made that I came into, um, and basically, like I said, I came in. They had like the set schedule every day. Team workouts. It felt more like an actual job. Is the best way to put it. Like it still feels that way. DZ feels more of like a job than Reciprocity did.
That's fair.
That's
Yeah.
that's the best way.
Nick said the same thing when I interviewed him. It feels more like a workplace. So how much does their system slash schedule actually help you in game?
The schedule, I think is the biggest like positive because it's literally a consistent thing. We're practicing from 12 to 7 every single day, 6 days a week. So people have to stay on their A game. Basically, there's no room to get lazy. Basically, is the best way to put it. You cannot get complacent. You have to keep up, and that works to our advantage, I think, because of what we have here. Like I said, we have the team house, we have coaches that really know what they're doing. We have Zach, who's very involved and cares to see us improve and will basically do anything to help us improve.
Um, uh, 12 to 7 sounds like a long time, and I know DZ is a team that's known for scrimming very early. Uh, how does that work? Like, how do you actually practice from 12 to 7? How does that happen?
So basically, Brandon, uh, Kyle, myself, and Christian, who is our basically like Brandon's like assistant coach, analytic guy. Um, from 12 to about 2 o'clock, we do things outside of actually playing the game to improve us, whether that's, a VOD review or something, a strat review, making new strats, helping each other improve individually with like one-on-ones. So like it definitely varies depending on the day, but we just do things outside of actually playing that can help each other improve, or as a team we can improve.
Okay. Um. All right, so we can go into the Sixth Invitational 2020. I would go into USN, but I feel like that was, I don't know how serious you guys took that event. I guess you can speak more on that. I don't want to assume. Everyone else I've spoken to about USN 2019 keeps saying that was just a chill event. Did you guys
I
have any
mean,
actual expectations heading into that, like winning, or was it just a land test the grounds?
we definitely had the expectation to win, but the thing is like we were a fresh, brand new team, just like Reciprocity was when they picked up Knicks and Vert, I think. So it's like we had the expectation to win, but we were going in there just trying to figure out where we were as a team, basically. So like I said, it was we wanted to win, but obviously, if SSG didn't win that event, in my opinion, and then that's a troll. They were the only team there, I think, other than what was the other team? There was like them and one other team were like the only two teams that had not made a roster change or something. So I think that was
Yeah,
SSG's event to lose. Like if they lost, like I said, they're just trolling themselves.
that's fair. I actually have a question. So joining DZ and getting teamed up with these personalities, Hyper and Mint, and even with Eclipse as well. These are people you haven't teamed with before. How different are these team personalities or if the team environment versus every other team you've been on, whether it's CLG or Reciprocity?
So personality wise, it's definitely the most different I've ever been on. Everybody is much different compared to me. I came on the team is like I'm kind of like the blunt guy, and I don't think they really had that. So it's definitely taken time, I think, for them to kind of um, adjust to my personality, and it's definitely taken time for me to adjust to their personality. But I think slowly I've rubbed off on them in positive ways, and they have rubbed off on me in positive ways. And I will say, Paul in specific, I didn't come on the team expecting like to be super close with like Paul or something, but I think outside of like Eclipse, I think I'm very very close to Paul, and I think that we have helped each other improve uh, in the game and outside of the game, and even as like just people, like as a person. Um, and it's not something I had expected, but it's just kind of something that had naturally happened.
Okay. Um, I'm gonna ask a little bit of a question about that then, because I see the tweets, man. I see the tweets about teammates who build each other up or the best teammates. And I want to ask this question: so potential T3 teams or other teams can learn from this. I'd love if you could speak more on how you guys build each other up.
Yeah. So, um, kind of a thing I talked about earlier was like Bosco and I would basically be very straight up with each other, and at the end of the day, we would understand it was like out of respect. We're just trying to help each other be better, and that's kind of how it is now with Paul and I. I could tell Paul something, and I could say it in like a wrong way, but he understands that that's not the way that I'm trying to say it or mean it, and he will use that to improve, and he will do the same thing for me. So if he says something to me like, yo, like I think you could have played this situation better or something, I completely understand that he's not trying to bring me down. He's not trying to knock how I played it. He's just trying to help me improve and give it to me from a different perspective. Um, so we hang out a lot outside of the game, and we work a lot after work hours. Like we'll go out and we'll do 2 hours of VOD review with each other, trying to help each other improve on something. Or like one thing that he's actually been helping with that I had asked for is like aiming. Like Paul's aim is insane. So I've been trying to, get some tips from him on like how he would play an angle or how he would peak an angle. So it's like we're constantly doing something to help each other improve. And then like I said, outside the game, if I'm not going to get into details, but like, let's say something comes up and he needs someone to talk to about it, or if he needs an opinion, I'm there to help him with it. Like I'll give him my honest opinion on it and like how he should react to it, or vice versa. He'll do the same for me. So it's like, I went from being a teammate first to an actual friend.
Okay.
And I've always said, make your teammates. I think someone even in COD said this is like, make your teammates your friends, not your friends your teammates. Like I did not talk to Paul outside of this game except for like music. That was it. And now I consider him one of my closer friends.
That's awesome. How much of the DZ schedule in scrimming at 4 Central or something actually helps you guys get good scrims? Like, how do you guys actually get efficient practice at that time? If I feel like most of the teams, maybe not Pro League teams anymore, I'm guessing because Pro League teams live together now, they can start a scrim earlier. But I know it was a challenge for DZ earlier when they started, and I'm not sure how it is right now, getting quality scrims at 4 Central, 5 Central, whenever, like really
So
early.
we're honestly kind of picky with who we scrim, and I think it's a good thing because sometimes the thing is you don't need to scrim like the best team to learn something from a scrim. And I think that's kind of why we are like with the scrims that we get, we're like pretty satisfied with because we can scrim like let's just say we can scrim like a T3 team or something. Before we even start that scrim, we have a goal in mind of what we're trying to improve on or what we're trying to do that day. So, like I said, we could scrim a T3 team and we could just obliterate them the whole day. But the thing is if we're trying something or like learning what we had set that morning, then we completed or did exactly what we set out to do that day.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's really cool. Yeah, I've always had that question in mind because I saw you posted a tweet LFS for Canadian teams. Like Canadian teams, like they're getting the flack right now for not being the best teams. And yes, like a DZ scrim will build them up, but how much do you take from that?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's fair.
I think that's super important too. I think people, even in the T3 scene, like ego each other in the T3 scene because they feel like they don't know the players in the other team, but can't realize that you can still take and efficiently practice against a team that's worse than you if you have goals heading into it. Is this a thing that other pro league teams you've been on have had, or is that more of a DZ thing?
I think it's more of a DZ thing because, like I said, we have these like early meetings, where we talk about what we want to do and what we want to like improve on that day or like focus on that day. So I definitely think it's kind of just a DZ thing. I'm sure other teams do it as well, but I'll just say based off like my experience, like it's definitely like a DZ thing.
Okay, I'm gonna ask another question, and I'm sitting on this DZ thing because obviously like we're at the end of the timeline, and we're gonna be at talking about the new season eventually, really soon here. I'm curious about like setting those goals. So this question is more related for T3 teams or maybe the Canadian region teams and how they want to build themselves up. T3 teams obviously don't do this as much, but how do you set like goals game wise towards like practice? Like, do you have an example of a kind of goal that could be set? It doesn't have to be something related to your team. You could, if you could come up with one. And how do
Um,
you actually practice that?
so I think that I actually have kind of an example for that. So I've actually gotten a lot of messages from like T2, T3 players about how to like receive or give criticism. And I think that is kind of how you decide a make or break player. Like I think if you can handle criticism well, you will have some type of success. But if you're one of those players that just doesn't want to hear it, you don't like you just you take it as complete like negativity, I don't think you're going to have that much success. So if you can like you can even have like a personal goal each day that's like I'm going to take criticism better today, or I'm going to hand out criticism better today, or like us as a team need to improve on handling criticism, that type of stuff. That can be it can be as that simple of a goal to work on that day. And if you as an individual or as a person as a team feel you achieve that today, then you did what you planned out to do that day.
Um, yeah, thanks for speaking on that. I really appreciate it. So with the whole Canadian teams getting a ton of flack, and when people were surprised that Ubisoft was investing into a Canadian scene, what are your thoughts on the teams in that region, and how, like, do you have any advice for teams like that, how they can build themselves up to become a solid competition? Because they're gonna have to fight T1 like Pro League, NA Pro League teams for qualifier spots and majors and stuff. That's going to be a different tier of competition than what they're currently playing right now. Do you have any thoughts on what they could do to step up towards that level?
I would say the best chance that they have with that is to basically you got to practice, better teams, or sorry, you got to practice against better teams. So the only way that you're gonna improve as a team is is this may sound stupid, but is like you got to lose to learn sometimes. Obviously, you don't want to lose in matches, but in scrims, that's where you learn. So if you're scrimming these tier one teams like pro league teams, like we've scrimmed a lot of the Canadian teams, and to be honest with you, some of them are not bad. Like there are some Canadian teams that could be a top team in like the NA Challenger League even. Obviously, I don't know who's going to finish eighth place in pro league, but I think that some of these Canadian teams, some of these NA Challenger League teams, will have a very solid chance depending on who they play. And if as long as you're just practicing how you play, you're focusing on your team improvement daily, and then I think they'll just be just fine. All they have to do is play their game.
Awesome. All right, 2020 invite. Um, I guess we could call that the first major event on DZ. It is. You guys played fifth and sixth. I didn't get to go to this in person. I was kind of sad about that. You guys went 2-0 in groups. You guys beat FaZe, and then did you guys played Empire? I want to talk about that Empire game because that game was a freaking barn burner. What were your thoughts on it?
Empire game was awesome because at that time they were like the known as like the second best along with G2, and that was the first time I've ever played against Empire, so I was stoked to play them. We went to the game basically prepared, ready to play them. We actually were before the drawings for the group came out. We actually wanted Empire. That's who we wanted to play. And reason being is they wanted, like the DZ team wanted their revenge from
Yeah,
Milan.
it said so.
And I just wanted to play them because they were basically kind of overtaking G2 at the time as like the best team. So it's like G2 I couldn't fucking beat. I'm like 0 and 5 against G2 or something. But I was like, I want to play Empire. And we ended up getting them in our group draw, playing them first, which we thought was pretty crazy because that's exactly what we wanted, and for some reason it's exactly what we got. So we were going to that game prepared, we were focused up, we were just ready to play. We did all of our prep correctly, I think, and we actually almost 2-0'd them. We lost Coastline 7-5, which is historically not a map DZ performed on. So even though we lost that map, we were super confident going into the next two.
Okay, I'm going to speak a little bit about your prep heading into the Empire game, or just your prep heading into other games. You're not the major IGL for DZ, are you? I'm guessing it's Mint.
No, right. Well, I would say back then, no, but I would say with the changes that we've made since the last off season, it's a mix of me and Mint.
Okay, cool. You got to see DZ's process, and I think a lot of analysts highlight how much they put prep work heading into games on game day. How do you find a balance as an IGL with the information the analysts give you versus just like playing and making adjustments on the fly? For example, versus a team versus Empire, the people say, I think they don't play the same way every time. They tend to change stuff sometimes, but they have a standard way of playing, and you've probably seen, you have to watch those VODs and see how they attacked and played in a variety of maps through the season. How do you use all that knowledge you got from VOD review and balance it with, calling things on the fly? Is there any time that you maybe see the joystick always pushes this at some point? He's probably going to push this at this time. Are there cues like that in the game?
There's definitely reads on people that you can get from watching VODs. Like people have like routine stuff that they do. So it's kind of just reminding everybody about it during the round or like before the round that there's a possibility that, X player might, so let's use joystick. Joystick might flank this way. So just be ready for it, be prepared for it, make sure like everyone is aware. So it's kind of just like a constant reminder of things we talked about before we actually went into the match and making sure everyone's still on page with that. So the mid-round stuff is kind of just based off what you see. Like if let's say you see an opening and you make the call, it's like everyone's got to be on board. You can have a strat like to the script, step 1, step 2, step 3. But with the way that Rainbow Six is sometimes you have to be able to go off that script because if one little thing happens, let's say, in point 2 timing, this guy kills you getting set up in your spot specifically for that strat or something. It's like now you have to kind of switch up what you're going to do because you can't run it to the script now. So it's kind of just, like I said, it's in the moment, paying attention of what's going on in the moment, not just what you prepared for, because you can't prepare for everything in Rainbow Six.
You can't. All right, I just remembered something that just got me so excited. You guys beat them in console at 7-4, and I can't. You gotta explain to me how you do this, man. I really hope it's not a Dark Zero secret. I just couldn't figure it out. How did you keep nading joystick on yellow stairs? Bro, because I'm with my team and we're trying to dry run and I'm trying to explain to them how we can I'm like, listen, Skies did this and he got it every time. I think it was like 3 times in a row. At some point he just gave up and started playing like long desk instead. Like what's the idea behind that? How does that work?
That just kind of comes down to pure coordination. There's not really a secret to it. It's coordinating ADS clear and timing grenades basically. So at that time I was just coordinating the ADS clear correctly and I was just hitting my nades. So there's no secret behind it. It's just my timing was better than him in being like the right position, I guess.
Do you prefer throwing that nade from the skylight? Because I know people sometimes try to bank it off the window as well.
I don't really have a preference. It kind of just depends how the person plays it. The thing is like multiple people play like that yellow staircase, and not everybody plays it the same. So it's kind of just like goes down to like you can kind of see how the person's playing it based off like either like a previous VOD review or even just droning that person in the moment. You can kind of see how it's being played, and it's kind of up to you, the person that's throwing the grenade, to where you want to throw it from, basically.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah, that Empire DZ game was freaking amazing to watch, and it was really exciting to see you guys go into playoffs. For some reason, people were surprised by that because they were like, Dexter usually doesn't perform that much on land, but I felt like with you as an addition to the team, that was a step up, and like you guys had enough prep time, I feel like, to head into that tournament. And then you guys played BDS. How was the BDS game?
Oh man, BDS was actually a blast to play against because again, that was the first time I've ever played against Shaiko. It was the first time I ever played against Empire. So it's like I'm getting to play all these teams and players that people fucking love. Like everyone, Shaiko's a crazy fragger. You know what I mean? Um, so playing that was honestly like a blast for me from a personal perspective because I'm not known as like a crazy fragger or he's super good at this. I think I've always had like a pretty good balance at certain things. Um, and being able to go up against a fragger like that and being able to like, you know, out frag that type of a fragger is pretty, but it's a confidence booster. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So, being able to keep up with or even outperform one of the best fraggers in the history of the game and a team that's basically known for fragging it was nice. It was a fun experience too because it kind of reminded me of like a reciprocity type play style is kind of where they just kind of frag, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Was there any practice heading into that? I had a conversation with Helby about Team Secret when they played BDS in EUCL and how they tried to make sure they never gave him a 1v1 because he tends to have a higher win rate of winning those fights. Was there any practice going into that versus Shaiko? I don't know if you guys expected to eventually play against him in that tournament. Um, was there any prep
Um
heading into that?
so we just kind of like I said, they played Shaiko before and they lost, I think. I honestly don't remember. But uh our prep was basically we know Shaiko's going to flank. We know he's going to try to take fights. So it's just kind of like playing tight and being prepared for it, like not getting caught off guard because Shaiko kind of reminds me of like a Nesk somewhat, whereas he's going to be always be lurking. He's any opening he's probably going to try to abuse. So like a good example of that is like the very last round against them was Border. He actually snuck in past me and Mint um, on Border, like the fountain area. And I was stuck in a corner and I get the late call out that I'm getting pushed. And I was like, I already knew in my mind who it was coming. And I just like, I won the fight, turned around, killed another person, turned around, killed another person. I'm stuck in a corner fighting the whole damn team. So it was kind of just like, he's coming. So you just have to be ready for it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, the BDS game was really cool, and then you guys had to face the eventual winners of the tournament, Dark Zero, Space Station. How was that game?
The space station game. Phew.
Yeah.
It's a typical game against Space Station. It's always close. They always pull it out. I do think that we tend to always give them more respect in game than we should. Uh, but Space Station is just one of those teams. They're very fucking good at what they do, and there's a reason why they're world champ. They're a world champ.
Um, yeah, I think Troy has spoken on that as well. How do you like let the team not do that? Like that seems like a really mental thing. Don't give these guys like do you just like peak them? Is that the solution to not giving him respect? Just like like oh we know like this person's holding this angle and you white peak that person out of like a confidence thing. How do you not give them space and like respect in game like that? Or work on that?
Um, See, it kind of varies because it's kind of like just a team based thing. Like you can you have to always do something as a team. So it's like SSG has a system. They take their map control. They work their picks based off like what their idea for the take is. So you have to kind of find the middle ground of that and not let them get set up the way that they want to do. So like when I say give them too much respect, well, we kind of gave them the map control that they wanted, like often. Whereas if we as a team probably like disrupted that more, it could have been a very different outcome. But at the same time, you never know. It's hindsight. So,
Hmm? I
but that's what I would.
I think an example to speak more on that where I've seen you disrespect other teams was honestly the Sonics games the other day, where like in the first 3 rounds, yes, those guys won in consulate, but I could tell from the first 3 rounds that it was almost like a welcome to Pro League. I think Ken tweeted that. It was like a welcome to Pro League for that team because like you guys were just taking map control from them, and all of a sudden you guys were in sight. Would you say that's an example of what it means to like just?
I think it's a great example. Yeah, we the thing is like I don't know what happened on console. We were in the zone, and then just all of a sudden they just kind of started slowly slipping away, and then it's like we woke back up the next 2 maps, but it's just like after the first 3 rounds, none of those rounds were close. For whatever reason, we just started like crumbling for some reason. And I think that if we kept that consistency the first 3 rounds, they would have been a quick
Quick
2-0
2-0?
sweep. Yeah.
I think so
I,
as
I
well.
I actually think that it would have been like we would have preferred to play them with Slevin and Gonfi based off of just like we know how they play as that roster, if that makes sense. Like with the roster that they played with, they have 3 new people compared to just one. So it's a little different. I know for a fact that we would have probably preferred to play them with Slevin and Gonfi rather than Lags and J90 because of how different they have to play.
Yeah, I figured with Lags and J90 that's gonna be a lot more random spots, but I felt like Consulate would like they had a higher chance of winning Consulate because I think Consulate blesses teams like that. And when it came to like Villa slash New Oregon, I felt like they wouldn't have solidified strategies or foundations like you guys had. So you guys probably had the upper hand getting into those maps. And I had faith, and I'm glad you guys won it. Season 11, you guys placed third. I think you were like 29 points, and TSM was 31st. So you guys went super far away from them. What were your thoughts on that season being like the first official season with DZ?
It kind of reminded me of the reciprocity season. First season on Rec, we got third place as a team. They went from sixth. DZ went from first to third, and I think that speaks volume a little bit. That it's kind of even though it's falling down from first to third, you made 2 roster changes, which is huge. You lost a big voice in BC Brandon, kind of brought on, Tyler's a little more quiet, and I'm used to being like the guy that's making the calls, like regardless. So it was a huge difference for them, and it was a huge difference for me and Tyler. So third place and only being 2 or 3 points out of first or whatever it was is honestly pretty damn good. Especially we've only been a team for I think now is a time for us to like basically step up. But we were at that time we were only a team for a couple months, 4 or 5 months. It's kind of the same thing as SSG when they picked up Troy. They were still pretty like in the middle during the online season. I think they finished like fourth place or something the last season. Not the most recent season, but the season
The
before that. I
season
think they
before that,
finished
yeah.
I think they finished like fourth place or something. Maybe third. I don't recall. Um but it's like sometimes you just need that time to gel. So
Yeah, I feel like the losses in those you guys lost to the first and second place. There, you lost. Your losses were literally to SSG and TSM, and I think you guys had a draw. I don't remember who against, but
we beat them the first split and then
yeah,
we
you did.
lost the second split. Yeah.
Um, all right, I'm gonna have a conversation here about like the NA teams, because I feel like what are your like people separate those? If you could separate the NA teams into tiers, where would you put certain numbers of teams? Hopefully that doesn't come off as toxic. I just wanted to hear your opinion on a variety of teams in the scene.
Um, I'll I'll just put it this. I think that NA has always kind of been top heavy as of late, and I think those teams are, obviously us, TSM, SSG, and Oxygen, and then I would say the other 4 teams kind of have just to prove themselves. And that's no disrespect to them saying that they're not a top 4 team. It's just basing it off of previous results and like, what people know and basing off scrims and stuff. I still think it's still that way. I still think it's those top 4 heavy teams with the other 4 still trying to battle it out and find their place.
Okay. Why do you think you have keep getting picked by top teams even after getting relegated twice in a row? What do you think your
Hmm,
strengths are that teams like see in you?
that's a good question. I don't know either. No, I'm trolling. I would just say it's because even though I've gotten relegated twice, when it came to matches and all that stuff, I've pretty much performed 95% of the time at the role that I'm playing. And like I said, I've played basically every single role in Siege other than flank watch. So I think the way I see it is I've played so many different roles that I can always probably do it better than somebody else.
Okay. Yeah, I was really surprised that Dark Zero picked you up. Not obviously like in a weird way, but just like I thought the way they played, the history of the way you've played was not as just like the system wasn't the same. So I was curious if those systems would align or if you would adjust well to that, and it seems like you have so far, which is exciting. Um, when it comes to a player like Hyper and your team, you spoke on like building each other up as teammates. How do you create space for someone like Hyper? Because he almost gives me a Shaiko type of vibe where I feel like Hyper also wins like almost 90% of his gunfights. Like if Hyper's taking a fight, like he's probably going to win that. And when I've watched his VODs to see like how does he approach fights and angles on 16-9, that shit is crazy to me. Um, how do you guys create space for him as an entry?
So the difference I would put with Shaiko versus Paul is Paul is more revolved around like the team play, whereas I think Shaiko kind of makes plays for his team rather than plays with the team. And I think that's kind of like the significant difference is um Paul is capable of making those same like solo plays, but for like the good of the team, he always tries to just like make the team winning play, not just like I can make a play, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
He always has the team in mind is the difference with Paul. So it's like we don't really need to make space for Paul because Paul is a part of the system. So Paul can just do his job and that just happens to be him killing everybody.
For sure. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the new season then? The new season system and just how the matches will work and the picks. What are your thoughts on that?
So I personally wasn't a fan when I was reading the email about how it was going to work. I was like, okay, this is kind of weird that people get to pick who they play because you're obviously going to pick the person you want to play the most. Like that's going to be like easy. But the way that it actually went down, I actually thought was pretty exciting. I think it's kind of cool the way it ended up. Honestly, I don't hate it now. I just thought it was weird at the time. But the biggest positive through all of it is it's finally a best of three. No more best of one bullshit. It's best of three, so the best team will always win at the end of the day, like for that day.
How much has your schedules changed in DZ with it being a BO3 system? Like were your schedules more aligned with BO1s at the um like last season?
Uh,
Has it
I
affected your
think
system in any way?
I think our system is honestly improved more. I think that there was too much over prep for best of ones. Is the way that I would say. Like there was too much preparation for a best of one, whereas now we can actually use that time and prep well for a best of three. Like I think there was too much stuff we were doing for a best of one.
That's interesting. Do you feel like no matter what you do, a best of one can still just have that random factor in it that it's just
Yes.
one game?
Yeah, I think so because it all starts like some people need a map to warm up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
So it's like you
can
can
afford
always
that.
lose a map in a best of three, but if you win the other two, then that first map was has no meaning.
Speaking of a map to warm up, with DZ's scheduling and the systems and just how it works, do you guys feel like you are just more consistent players in general? Does the system help like create that? Create consistency? Um like maybe less bad days? It's sort of a feeling I
Yeah,
had with with you guys having to almost think about Siege so many hours in a day and not just show up at 7 p.m. for scrims and then leave at 12 whenever you guys are done. Like, do you feel like it helps you guys be more consistent on game
Yeah,
day?
I actually think the way you worded it is the best way to word it. It's a more consistent thing because it's 6 days a week, so it's like you're always thinking about Siege. Your life is basically it's a actual job. It is not just show up for scrims at 5 o'clock, see you guys then, have a good rest of your day. The whole day is our job, and then afterwards, some of us, even all of us sometimes want to just keep working. So it's definitely a consistency.
It's very impressive seeing you guys still sometimes putting stream hours after those long days because I think a lot of pros or a lot of people when they become pro, you see less streaming hours from them because they're probably just really tired. Um, so I think it's interesting how you guys put in those many hours but still have like the drive slash ability to stream for a couple hours a night. Because I know you guys did that last season. Um,
hmm There's definitely times I even now like I want to stream and I have the time to do it, but it's just the way ranked is right now. That's literally the only reason why I don't like. So sometimes I'll literally just get on Siege and just hunt for like an hour or something, just because I want to keep playing. But I don't want to play like ranked and play a cheater stack, and it just like ruins my mood. It makes me not want to play because I know there's times where like I'll be grinding and streaming, but it's constant cheaters, so it makes me like sway away from wanting to play Siege. And that can affect how you feel on like practice and stuff. Is like if you're not enjoying the game because of all the stuff that's going on, it can affect you like in practice and stuff. So that's kind of like I think why some people don't stream as much as they could is because they don't want to have that like mood or mentality because of the game.
yeah, I totally get that. Like I've seen you stream and people you're playing against are typing in chat saying they're not in the stream. I think that's kind
Yeah.
of ridiculous. Do you have any thoughts on what people could do to fix that? It just seems really crazy right now. Like it seems like pros or anyone who's influential in the Siege community can't can't stream the game in peace. Like I've seen you use your alt accounts and still get recognized as well.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know. I just think it comes down to people got to stop being scummy and just let people enjoy the game. Like, people enjoy stream sniping and cheating in the game, but I don't think they realize that, like, they could literally kill the game by doing that. And then it's like, once the game is dead, at the end of the day, was it worth doing that? Was it worth killing the game that you probably enjoy playing too, just to be a dickhead for no reason?
Yeah, I it's always been really hard. Like I don't think the last 3 or 4 seasons has been the least ranked I have ever played. Just because it's you never know, and I think it's also like I forget what Kicks called it. He called it almost like a cheating pandemic where you feel like you don't even know who is legit anymore. You like second guess every time you die. Like, was that fishy? Um, and there's so many people who say they're not cheating, but we see them get banned in the timeline a couple days later as well.
hmm
Um, yeah, I really hope like that gets fixed. I don't think I have any more questions. I think we checked all the boxes. Do you have any thoughts or things to say to people who have been supporting you since you started your journey?
Um, Basically, just thank you to people that there's not like I said, there's been a lot of people that have been here when I was doing well, and then when I had my bad slumps like Obey, CLG getting relegated, a lot of them disappeared, and then they tried to come back, but the ones that have actually stuck through from the beginning, especially shout out to like Kristen, Boxer Papa. There's even more. I'm just gonna shout out some people from my like
Yeah,
that
go
I
for it.
know. But those guys, Kristen, Boxer, um, my mic just oh,
You're good.
Kristen, Boxer, um, maybe finished, Tex, like Alaskan based, Meg, like those guys, even Peter, have all been very, very supportive, even when things are bad. So shout out to those guys and people that still support. Thank you. Love you guys.
Awesome. Thanks so much.